welcome to City Hall for night 2 of our Meet the Candidates broadcast for 1993. I am live at City Hall, and this was scheduled to be the program in which we would have the candidates for Orange County Executive. As we have explained, we had originally an acceptance from both candidates to be here. Mary McPhillips' office advised us late last week that she had another commitment tonight, what was described only as a family commitment, and that was not one that she was going to change to be here this evening. So we do not have Mary McPhillips, but we do have the Republican candidate, Joseph Rampe. We're going to proceed with the program as scheduled because Mr. Rampe had accepted all along and agreed to keep the commitment. And we're going to probably loosen the format a little bit. We're not going to strictly enforce time limits tonight, but we're going to stick to the general procedure of having an opening statement, having some questions. I'll be asking questions, and we'll invite questions from members of the audience. We have a few people here at City Hall. Later in the evening on WDLC, you will hear the Common Council candidates, not in a debate format, but presenting prepared statements. So let's begin the program tonight. And Joseph Rampe, you've been on our Tri-Season Noon program. This is a slightly different venue for you this evening, but we're pleased to have you join our listening audience here from City Hall. Welcome to our program.
Well, as usual, it's a pleasure to be here.
And Joe, if you have a statement, go ahead.
Okay. Think back over all the years that Orange County government has had a legislature and a county executive. Think back if you remember any issues that have ever come up in any of the elections for that county executive. There have never been issues like there are this year. The county is lacking three essential elements, the three cornerstones, I call it, of good government, those being leadership, planning, and vision. We do not have these at present. These are three items that I will bring to that office starting January 1st. As I've gone throughout the county and talked to various groups, I've talked about some plans that I have for the county. We've talked about economic plans, plans to bring in more jobs, more local higher paying jobs, to increase our tax base, which will eventually lower our taxes. We've talked about business incubators. A business incubator is a building that is shared by a number of small businesses to help them get started. They share the rent, they share the electricity, the telephone, janitorial, secretarial staff. It enables a small business to get up and running with a lower initial startup cost. Small business in this country accounts for 70% of the jobs that we generate, and it's essential that we always remember small business and we work with it. It is the easiest way to create jobs and create a stronger economy. I've talked about business retention. There's two ways that you build business, and one is to bring it in, and the other is to work with what you have and make it stronger. The Orange County Partnership does an excellent job of bringing business into this county, but it's also essential that we work with the businesses that are here to make them stronger, to help them when they need larger quarters, when they need more staff, when they're in need of a loan and they can't find it, to help them with grants that may be available to make their businesses better. I've talked about charter reform. We have a constant bickering and arguing between the two branches of government in Goshen. I think what's needed is we have to go back to the book of rules, and that's the county charter, and we have to draw the lines a little bit straighter so that everybody knows who is responsible for what, who does what. I, as a taxpayer, am tired of paying legal costs on both sides of all these arguments. I've talked about televising the legislative meetings. In Warwick, we televise all our town board meetings. We found as time went on that we have very poor attendance at the meetings, but the day after the meetings are televised, the response is absolutely terrific. The phone rings, people with ideas, people with thoughts, people wanting to be part of the process, and they were able to do it from their homes without coming out to the meeting. I've also talked a lot about all the unfinished projects that have been left in the county, the millions and millions of dollars that have been wasted on projects started and stopped. A lot of these projects are projects that are what I call bread and butter items, things that should be done. I'll talk about two of them briefly, if I may. I'm going to talk about a material recovery facility. That is an item that is in the budget, in the executive's budget for 1994. It is an item that was in the permitting process when Mrs. McPhillips took office. That permitting process was stopped. Here we are 4 years later, and we're about to go back and start it all up again. It was an item that should have been done. Without this facility, you will never reach the percentages of recyclables that everybody feels is necessary to have an efficient solid waste program. I've also talked about a leachate treatment plant at the old landfill. This is a plant that would treat the leachate from the old landfill in New Hampton. Leachate is water, usually rainwater that runs off the landfill or water that is percolated through the landfill. At present, we collect this. It's trucked mostly to Beacon. We pay to have it treated. This plant was also approximately 80% design done. It should have been built. It could have been built. It would have cost us between $500,000 and $750,000. In the meantime, we've spent millions and millions and millions trucking this leachate and treating it. We could have put up the plant and paid for it 2 or 3 times over. Projects that are basic, essential projects, things that are needed, they were needed then, they're needed now. They should have been done. They're not the kind of items that should be left set until election time and brought back up again. We've heard a lot about the GIS system, the Geographic Information System. This is an item that the county executive talked about in her 1990 State of the County address. Here again, where is it? Why is it all of a sudden election time and it's coming up again? I talked a lot about solid waste in general. The smart community is a community that looks out 25, 30 years into the future. And they say, where will we be in solid waste at that point? The community that goes from year to year or day to day at the whims of the market leaves themselves open to all kinds of problems like we've had in Orange County right now. This whole idea of shipping our garbage and it being called a window of opportunity, it's not a window of opportunity, it's a window of disaster. We now find ourselves responsible for the old landfill, for the landfill expansion, for whatever went in Turry, for whatever's going in Keystone, and for who knows how many lagoons that we're dumping sludge into. Very dangerous precedent. What I have proposed for solid waste is a regional solution. I've talked about it from the first day that I talked about solid waste. There is a company now that is putting together such a regional solution. It is a region that's going to extend from Saratoga County all the way down through and include, if we wish, Orange County. The county will gather its waste. We will do our own recycling. We will then take the remainder and ship it to a facility that this company is constructing south of Albany. It's a combustion facility. There is an ash landfill alongside of it. The aggregate ash is usually used in construction material. The fly ash is encapsulated in mortar and put into this landfill. This would eliminate the need of any landfill or combustion facility in Orange County. It's a program that looks out into the future. It is something that we won't see for 5 years or more, but it will take care of our solid waste as far out as you can go. Another item that is very important and is big on everybody's mind, I know it's big on mine, is taxes. There's been a lot of statements made. There's been statements made that Mary cut taxes in half. Well, I'm going to tell you, go home, get out your tax bills, and see if your taxes have been cut in half. I got out mine. I find that my county taxes from 1990 to 1993 actually went up $4.65 a thousand. They didn't stay the same, and they certainly weren't cut in half. It was a good-sized increase. It is misleading, very misleading, to send out literature stating that taxes have been cut in half, where indeed they have not. The other thing that's important about taxes is not only what you pay, but what you get. The county, in 3 years, has added 3 times the debt that they had when they started out. Taxes have increased by $30 million. We've had an increase of sales tax by 1%. I know that there's people who can't pay their taxes because 2.5 times the number of people as before have undue taxes, have unpaid taxes. I'm very proud of the fact that in the town of Warwick, we have a lot to show for our taxes. We have constructed a new town hall, a $2.5 million facility. My basic budget is a little over $5 million without special districts. Constructing a facility such as this would almost be equivalent to the county constructing a facility for $150 million. I'm proud of the fact that this facility is 2/3 paid for, and we've only been in it for 2 years. I'm proud of the fact that after being in office for only 4 months, I had a recycling committee up and running, and shortly after that, I had a recycling center, and then I had curbside pickup when the county started, mandatory pickup. Our original contract called for twice a month curbside pickup, commingled of the recyclables, at a price of 85 cents a dwelling unit. The price has now gone up to $1.25 a dwelling unit. It's still a bargain. It's still the right way to go. In the county, we're probably picking up 12 to 19% recyclables. We should be closer to 50. Again, I'll go back to the MRF facility that should have been constructed and wasn't. If it had been, we'd be well along our way. I'm proud of the parkland that we've added. We are in the process of constructing a lake at the town park, a 9-acre lake, so that we'll be swimming. We have taken out a lease on a piece of property on Greenwood Lake to supply public swimming on that lake, the first time ever. We have purchased parkland in the Wickham area of Warwick to add to the parks there. We are in the process of constructing 8 soccer fields near the town park because we have a very large soccer program. These are all positive items. And one of the things that I'm the most proud of is the fact that we were able to take our police department from when I started in office that had sometimes only one person on duty. Now, mind you, Warwick is the largest town in Orange County, not only in population, but in area. One person on duty, sometimes 2. We now have a police department that has 24-hour-a-day dispatching, 24-hour-a-day sergeant supervision, detectives, youth officers, DARE programs, narcotic work. And one of the things that shows up better than anything else is that our ability to solve a crime, if somebody was to break into your house, our ability to solve that is 5 times better now than it was before. These are all positive things. This makes for a positive track record, a track record that the present county executive simply does not have.
Mr. Rampe, at this point, I maybe would like to inject a few questions on some specific points, and I want to go back to the beginning to some of the things you said. Remind our listeners that we are live from the municipal building, Port Jervis City Hall. Our guest tonight is Joseph Rampe, the Republican candidate for Orange County Executive. The Democrat candidate, Mary McPhillips, chose not to join us this evening. You mentioned about defining clearly what's in the county charter. Mary McPhillips says this, to an extent, has been done in some court decisions that she says went her way when she had these standoffs with the county legislature. How do you interpret that?
Well, besides defining the issues, we have some dangerous precedents in the county, and what I'm going to point to right now is the arrangement that was reached by Mrs. McPhillips and Nixon Hargrave to come up with a settlement with Waring Engineering. This was arranged only by the county executive with no input from the legislature, and the net result of this was a very poor deal for the county. The county wound up paying close to $1 million in legal fees to a firm. I believe the quote in the newspaper today was something like $1,200 an hour. That comes from not having a charter that clearly defines the duties of everybody. No one individual should have that kind of power. That is a bad precedent. That brings on problems. It has brought on a problem here. The problem being the loss to the taxpayers of close to $1 million that should be in the taxpayer's pocket, not in Nixon Hargrave's pocket. The constant lawsuits that go on, and undoubtedly there will be more, show that the lines are not clearly drawn. There would not be these lawsuits if it was clearer. You must have checks and balances. That's what government runs on, and that's what we need here.
Should she have her own attorney, in essence, Stephen Hunter, and should the county legislature have to hire its own attorney?
No. I think what you're headed for in county government, as long as the employees are not dictated to by the charter, that they work for both branches of government, we're headed down a road where the county executive keeps the employees of the county from working with the legislature. The legislature, by and by, in an attempt to get information, is going to start hiring more and more of their own people, and you're going to wind up with a double set of employees. That's another item that should definitely be addressed in the charter.
Another settlement that was negotiated, is alleged privately by the county executive, was the one with Orange Environment, a settlement which, if accepted, would keep the county out of the $25 million landfill expansion now and forever. Is this another example in your mind of an improperly negotiated settlement in the manner in which it was done?
The proper way to do things is you talk first and you vote after. You don't go out and negotiate a settlement and come in and throw it down on the table and say, here, I've worked this out, you have to sign it. The legislature should be part of the process. For example, right now, we're working on covering the old landfill. If you read from some of the meetings, you'll find out who is attending these meetings. The county executive, the engineer, and representatives of Orange Environment. Where is the legislature? I voted for my legislator to represent me. I want them to be part of all these processes. They should be. If they were, we wouldn't constantly have these hassles. Maybe if they had been part of the negotiations with Orange Environment, we would have a settlement.
You talked about millions of dollars wasted on unfinished projects. Is the landfill expansion an example of an unfinished project that millions have been wasted on?
I think the landfill expansion right now, I don't think the final verdict on that is in, to be honest with you. I have said that I feel I have to be shown that the landfill expansion is environmentally sound and economically feasible. And I have no way to tell you right now if it is or it isn't. I simply do not have the information or the access to the information.
Who's culpable in this? Isn't this as much the county legislature's albatross as it is the county executives, the landfill expansion?
If it's unusable, then it's a problem. If it is indeed usable, what's happened is that the good years of the landfill expansion have been let go by, good years when it could have been permitted. Like I said, I simply don't have the information to answer that.
Okay. You talk about the future waste disposal and, in essence, a plan that involves incineration,
Yes.
burying the ash on site, and in the end, shipping the garbage out of the county. It has been said by some that we should not, and Roberta Murphy is one of these people who's been in the forefront of environment, for better or for worse. She has said we should not be shipping our problems to other people. How do you feel about that?
Well, I feel that solid waste is going to be a regional problem. I think it's a regional problem right now. The state DEC recognizes it as a regional problem. They are in favor of regional solutions. In years to come, as you recycle more and more items out of the garbage, you're going to have less and less residue. I think that to get into anything large in the county yourself could be very risky. The good part of this is that this is a private company that is doing this. It is not county taxpayers' funds. They have a large enough region that if one area doesn't produce the amount they need, the other one will. The prices will be competitive because there is no flow control in Orange County of garbage. Flow control is an item that is before the Supreme Court right now, and the odds are that it is not going to be, it is going to be declared unconstitutional. So it's going to make it a very competitive business. Right now, you have I guess you would call it a fire sale on landfills. You have a lot of landfills with a lot of room and a short lease on life. Shipping out of state is a very dangerous precedent because there is all kinds of legislation before the United States Congress right now to allow states to stop it. And I got to tell you, I can see no politician, governor of any state standing up running on a platform that I'm going to allow every other state to ship the garbage into ours.
Well, live at Fort Jervis City Hall, this is Meet the Candidates. We are meeting at Joseph Rampe, the Republican conservative candidate for Orange County Executive. We have a pretty fair crowd on hand, and anyone in the audience who would like to submit a question, we are taking questions in writing. We have forms for it. You can bring your questions up at any time right now because we'll start using the questions if anybody does have questions. We also have with us tonight, and we're pleased to have with us Access 8 that is filming the broadcast for play at a later time. If you want to hear again what is said tonight, you'll be able to watch it on your local Access TV channel, Channel 8, at a later time. We've been told also that the program last night featuring the City of Fort Jervis candidates will be aired tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Our guest again on Meet the Candidates is Joseph Rampe, the Republican candidate for Orange County Executive. One of the projects that was not completed was the $160 million water loop received by the former county executive, Louis Steinbach. That project is gone, but there is some money there The original thought was, voiced by the county executive, Mary McPhillis, was that this money could be used to help municipalities deal with their own water problems. Port Jervis is facing a major problem right now, and that's that they're putting clean water into dirty pipes. They would like to undoubtedly speed up the process of replacing those pipes. Should money that was earmarked for the water project be made available, either in the form of a grant or a loan to the city for that purpose?
I think the problem with the money left in the water fund is simply the fact that there just isn't enough. I hate to say $14 million isn't a lot of money, but when it comes to water projects, it's not. There are so many communities in need of help with their water systems that I don't know how you would ever share those funds. I don't know how you would ever break them down. I know the town of Newburgh has a filtration system they want to put in, and that's $14 million, that one item alone. Interest rates right now are low. So as far as any kind of a low-interest loan, I don't know how much lower the Water Authority would be able to lend the money for. As far as grants go, if you gave the money out in grants, you would have to come up with a way of dividing it equally, because it's not a case of one or two communities that are in need of these funds. It's a case of an awful lot of communities. Right now, the Water Authority is working on projects to try to help each community, leak detection, groundwater studies to show where water deposits are for the future. I've heard the idea proposed that the Water Authority become water brokers, and they help to work with communities so that communities that have water, they would buy from and then turn around and sell it to communities that need it. And that's something I think should definitely be looked at.
The water loop itself, in its original form, would not have served the entire county, but it would have fallen back on the entire county in one manner or form. Conceptually, do you have problems with that?
Yes. I think that was the biggest problem with the Water Authority, was the way it was financed. I can tell you, coming from a community that did not have any hookup to the Water Authority until I think we had one spur pipe coming in about the year 2010. There was a very strong feeling that we were paying for a project that we would not see any benefit out of. I had made contact with the executive director at that point, Mr. Bradford. I had talked to him about the fact that I felt something should come into the communities that were paying but were not part of it. And what I had suggested is either the purchase of water rights or the outright purchase of land that were aquifer sites, so that they would give some future production ability to the different communities, so that each community would feel they were getting something for their money.
On another subject, the county jail and courts, the decision as it stands now is to move 2 family courts to Newburgh and build a new jail in Newburgh. We've all heard the arguments many times by now, but is this a decision that Ashe County Executive you could live with if you take office January 1st?
Well, that's a decision that's made by the legislature. The legislature votes on where they're going to put the jail and the courts. They have voted. Whether any change will come, I think, is going to be determined by the makeup of the legislature come January 1st. I think that's the key to that question, whether they will bring that back up. We vote on it, or what they'll do. That is something that they would determine on January 1st.
There is no question that a county executive in his or her capacity exerts influence, or at least tries to exert influence on the legislative decisions. Presumably, you would not shy away from that ability.
I think that the jail and courts are such a volatile issue that I don't think the county executive is going to be able to exert that much influence on them. I think that it's become a highly charged issue. I'm sure everybody's aware of all the resolutions there were and all the meetings and how many votes there were and everything before they finally came up to the decision that they made.
Was this a good decision for the county?
I don't think it was a good decision. I don't think anybody really got what they wanted. The city of Newburgh did not want a jail. The city of Newburgh wanted courts. They wound up with a jail and a couple of courts. Goshen wanted all the courts. They wound up with a few. They wanted them in the village. They wound up with them outside the village. I think it's a decision where I don't think anybody really got what they want. Somebody once said that if it's a decision where nobody's happy with it, it must be a good decision, but I don't know if that's true here or not.
Much has been made, the buzzword these days is gridlock at Goshen. How would you break this gridlock?
Well, when I was elected in Warwick and I took office, I was on the 2 end of a 3-2 board. And I've told this story many times. For about 6 months, we fought like cats and dogs, to be quite honest. At the end of that period, the realization came along that this was not what we were voted in for. This is not what we were supposed to do. We sat down as a group at the insistence of our town clerk, I've got to add, at that time. And we went through the list of everything that we disagreed on and how we thought we could work each thing out in a democratic way. There were issues that simply came back up and were voted on after an open public discussion. There were other things that we agreed that we would try to, to come to a compromise on. I think that's what needs to be done now. I think what's happening is there's decisions made, like the settlement with Orange Environment. It's made, it's thrown on the table, it says there it is. You're supposed to talk before you act. You're supposed to negotiate before you vote. You don't vote on something and then start negotiating it, and that's not what's happening now. Unfortunately, now it's gotten to a point where if one says yes, the other one says no. It's like an automatic reaction. And that's not the way government's supposed to be. That's not what government officials are voted in or paid for. They're supposed to work for the good of the people, but the polarization that has occurred in the county right now has really crippling the government.
It has been suggested by some, including the area county legislator Joseph Pagano, who happens to be a Democrat, not in favor with the Democrats, but maybe one of the reasons is he says County Executive Mary McPhillips never shows up for any of the key committee meetings. I assume you've heard the same thing. What would your policy be
yes.
regarding
No,
that?
I'll go back to my position as president of the Supervisors and Mayors Association. Lou Heimbach came almost every single month to our meetings. He was always there, he was always available. No local government supervisor or mayor of the three large cities could ever say that they couldn't be in contact with the man because he was there each month. I fully intend to attend meetings. I would attend the legislative meetings, not all of them, but you know which ones are the important ones. You got to be part of what's going on. Here again, if you don't go and things happen and then you holler, it's not the right way to be. You're supposed to be there. You're supposed to be part of it. You're supposed to be part of the discussion. You're supposed to put your input in then, not after the vote. I think accessibility is very important. Part of our government reform package has been constituent hours, where the county executive would be available for people to come and talk, discuss their problems. Availability is essential. It's a complaint I hear every place I go that the present county executive is not available. It is something that I am now in the town of Warwick, and I would definitely be in the county.
Our guest is Joseph Rampe. You're listening to a live Meet the Candidates broadcast from the municipal building at Fort Jervis City Hall. We're in the Common Council chambers. This was a scheduled debate between the two candidates for Orange County Executive. One candidate is here, the Republican Conservative candidate, Joseph Rampe. Do we have any questions from the audience? Anyone who would wish to submit a question? We have forms available. If you do, I would need to get those very shortly, because we're probably not going to go much longer than about another 10 minutes or so with this portion of the program. But let's talk generally about a few other things, and let's focus on the budget for one thing. We haven't talked about that yet. The 1994 budget proposal from the current county executive is on the table. Presumably by now you've looked at it line by line and come to some conclusions about it.
Well, I think the thing that bothers me the most about the whole budget and the tax process that's going on is what I mentioned before about the statements of taxes being cut in half. They simply aren't. The county is facing 3 times the debt it had before. Taxes have gone up $30 million. We've had a sales tax added. This surplus, if you were to take the county's share of the sales tax, and you multiply it by the number of months that the sales tax increase has been in effect, you would find that it equals exactly, or darn close to $35 million. And that's the surplus we're talking about. County government has not stayed the same. It has not stayed even without any increases. There has been increases every year, and this time, on top of everything else, there's been a 1% sales tax added onto it. All of this is part of what goes on in doing your taxes. You have to be truthful with where the taxes are. You can't make statements that taxes are half when they're not, and that's what we're getting. The budget has items in it. I talked before about the MRF, about the leachate treatment plant, items that should have been done years ago, items that would have saved money. We're talking about a lot of items that are from way back. These are things that should have been done, and they haven't.
The financial consultants that review the budget as an annual practice, the County Legislature goes out and has this done. They came back earlier this week and said $17 million out of the unappropriated fund balance, maybe a little too much, maybe cutting too deeply into that pocket of money. Jim Townsend, the legislative chairman, says the options are find other places to cut in the budget or raise taxes. How do you view that?
Well, one of the things that is always a fear in a budget like this, you know, there's a habit of saying, well, the budget is less than it was last year, so therefore it's good, and people don't really go through it. The fact that it's less, it should still be gone through to look for items that are not needed. You can't step back and say, okay, there's a decrease of so much, therefore that's the best we can do. It's got to be gone through with the same scrutiny that it has every other year. That's essential. And then from that, you can decide if there are other items that need to be cut. You have to look at your capital projects and where you're going. I've always thought that taxes are something that should try to be stable. And this up one year and down the next year, and then up the next year and down the next year, people run on a budget. A lot of families run on a budget, and they like to know where they are and what they're doing. And here again, you have to look to the future as to where you're going, and you have to go through that budget, regardless of what the budget shows when it's presented. You have to go through it with the same scrutiny that you would if the budget showed a large increase.
The 50 people who were displaced from the transfer stations where they're bringing in the Pennsylvania firm, as I understand it, efforts are being made to keep them on board. Would you say maybe this is an example where maybe a little pain would be needed and we might have to say goodbye to a few people?
Well, I think the problem with what went on here was a lot of these people, if not all of them, worked in the DPW. They were switched to a different department. A lot of them have seniority. They were then switched back out of that department to the DPW. They lost their seniority. To fill them into where you have attrition in jobs, when you have a workforce that's as large as the county's is about 2,500 people, I don't see where there would be a problem of finding a place for these people to work. They were told when this project was presented that there would be no loss of jobs. Afterwards, they were told that they were going to be laid off. Then there was going to be part of them laid off. It's just not the way government is supposed to treat its employees. They are local. They are taxpayers. You should be upfront with them, and you should be straight with them. And I don't feel they were dealt with fairly in this situation at all.
We see in neighboring Sullivan County, albeit a much smaller county, but still a county administrator comes forth and says 42 positions are going to have to go, not through attrition, but these are positions that are going to involve layoffs. It is happening in other places.
Yes, it is, but those places are also in a position where perhaps they have overstaffed. This is something you have to look at, because one county lays off employees doesn't mean every other one does. Maybe they, and I can't make a statement on this definitely, maybe they have twice the staff they need.
You don't think Orange County is overstaffed at this point?
I don't know.
Okay. Joan Mackey, who was the Republican candidate for Orange County clerk, was on my program, my midday program today, and said that she's several people short. One of the reasons why they can't maintain the every other Monday night hours here at the Fort Jervis satellite station. When you look at this kind of shortage, do you tend to say that that's a bullet that has to be bitten, or perhaps we